Hello and welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Hassan Askari and I'm part of the team who manages the Qatar Fintech Hub. In addition to our role in developing a fintech ecosystem, we are also passionate in building a strong knowledge-based economy, which is characterized by entrepreneurship, innovation, and most importantly, information sharing. As part of our information sharing objectives, we aim to become a leader in spreading awareness and education on the wider financial services sector. In the coming weeks and months, we are going to run a number of focused webinars which will help our audiences and partners to further understand the sector. Today, we kick off this series with our first webinar, which is focused on InsurTech and the role it plays in our lives. With this, I would now like to welcome Khalid and Manna, who is the Executive Director of Finance, to give us a few words on this topic. Khalid?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Hassan. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Abais bin Nasser Al Khalifa. Abdulaziz had something unprecedented that he had to attend to, so I'll be delivering the opening speech today on his behalf, welcoming everybody. I'm excited to be here with you today to see how we can bring this industry together under the spotlight and to further understand how it is rapidly changing the financial sector and reviewing the opportunities it creates for Qatar and the region. Since its emergence as an independent financial industry a few years ago, InsurTech has steadily continued growing worldwide, thanks to ever-increasing range of number of startups and entrepreneurs entering into this domain. This sector has become unprecedentedly attractive to investors, especially following the impact of the pandemic. Reportedly, the amount of money invested in InsurTechs worldwide during the first half of 2020 was nearly $2.2 billion, a number that has swiftly risen to a record of $2.55 billion in Q1 of 2021. The significance of investment in InsurTechs, however, cannot conceal the reality that the industry still faces many challenges. InsurTech is still a conservative and slow industry. A modernized view is required to enable transformative digitization and to bring it closer to the expectations of the modern customer. Insurance products also need to become more transparent and modular to increase adoption rates. On another level, increased awareness efforts are required around the role of insurance in general ways to address the underinsured population. This is a traditional, omnipresent challenge that both startups and traditional insurance firms face. Through Qatar Fintech Hubs, one of QDB's incubators, and with the support of local and global partners, we hope to bring and to make able to work with key players in insurance ecosystem to lay down the infrastructure and groundwork required to boost InsurTech and redefine insurance, not just in Qatar, but in the entire region. I would like to thank you all once again for joining us today and wish everyone a successful and insightful webinar.
Thank you so much, Khalid. Now I would like to invite Tomek, who is the Vice President and General Manager at InsurTech. InsurTech is a global leader in insurance technology, and they work in more than 30 countries globally, serving over 100 of carriers and numerous agents, brokers, and ecosystem players. Tomek will give us a background on InsurTech, a brief introduction. InsurTech is also one of our anchor fintechs. Over to you, Tomek.
Thank you, Hassan, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for a great introduction as well. I think we are quite aware of challenges ahead of us. So InsurTech, very interesting concept. What it is, let me give you a few examples first. Imagine that you're paying for your car insurance actually per kilometer driven rather than a flat annual premium. Or imagine that you're driving into an area and parking the car, and on your app, you actually get a suggestion that you maybe purchase additional coverage just in case your car gets stolen because you are in the area where theft rates are a bit higher. Or imagine you're traveling by plane and your departure is heavily delayed and you actually automatically get a voucher that allows you to enter a business lounge and wait for the plane to depart there. So those are all examples of actual InsurTech at play. Now, as we have seen, it's not really a rocket science. It's simply a smart way to leverage technology to drive the innovation in insurance. Now, this is actually in contrast to the decades of insurance innovation in the past, which was mainly focused around launching new products and more complex products that sometimes the end customers never really understood, and products that were very expensive, not transparent, and not a lot of that was actually purchased. So you were seeing the tilt of innovation moving away from a product actuarial focus to actual customer focus here. Now, InsurTech, who stands behind it? I think we've heard certain numbers about the investments into the market. Now, there have been hundreds, literally hundreds of new startups globally, probably even thousands these days, that have been funded to drive this technological revolution. And some of them have already matured by now and reached multi-billion valuations. Some of them are listed on global and local stock exchanges. Others are still private. But it's not on InsurTech is not only about the new players, it's also about the incumbents. So the existing insurance carriers, brokers, reinsurers who are actually trying to reinvent themselves and become digital players. And this process has been going on for several years now, and it's pretty much a mainstream approach recognized within the industry. So that's a little bit of introduction. Now, before we actually talk with our esteemed panelists about the details of InsurTech, I would like to take a step back and look at some of the key forces or drivers that we have seen working with clients globally that actually impact and shape InsurTech globally. So I think it's important for a change to start with customer as the key driver. And why is it so? Because customer expectations are key here. So customers nowadays are used to spending lots of time on the web, on the internet, interacting with companies, making purchases, and they really expect same experience when buying insurance, but also when engaging with insurance providers. Actually, about 80% of customers surveyed recently stated that they are willing to buy insurance from new players. And when they say new players, they don't mean new insurance companies. They actually mean companies coming from other industries. So they are thinking about Google's, Facebook's, Tesla's of this world, right? 80% of clients would be willing to engage with those for insurance. Now, insurance as an industry had to react to this. So there's a lot of sort of connected, embedded insurance offerings entering the market. And embedded connected insurance is basically insurance being part of another good or service rather than sold on a standalone basis. And as such, customers are also expecting much higher level of personalization of insurance products offered to them, because they know clients and they basically the whole industry has a lot of data on them, and this personalization should be possible. So we see that the customer expectation is really driving the need for connectivity, speed, and convenience coming from the industry. So another important driving force is, of course, technology, part of the InsurTech name. And here there's just very many trends, but let me just focus on two or three key ones. So APIs, the way how different applications talk to one another, interact with one another, and the whole API economy, ability to connect seamlessly, fast at low cost, and reuse everything what already exists without having to reinvent the wheel. That's really important. That's a key driving force from technology behind the spread of InsurTech. The big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, those technologies coming of age eventually at last, they are also helping us to actually provide more accurate pricing, underwriting decisions, personalization of offers, customer support, fraud detection, etc. So again, very important force. And things like cloud readiness, so be able to scale fast and efficient from the operational point of view is also key. So again, APIs, big data, cloud readiness, those are the key trends from the technological forces shaping the market. And last, probably also very important from the overall industry point of view for us that we have seen working with the clients is the actual evolution, excuse me, of insurance itself. So we talked about embedded or connected insurance, but it actually goes beyond that. So we're seeing a big shift from vertical industry thinking to more of a horizontal ecosystem-driven way of attracting clients. So we're talking about car manufacturers, health providers, e-marketplaces, teaming up with insurance companies and providing seamless service end-to-end about mobility, health, home, travel ecosystem. So that ecosystem drive is important. Finally, insurance is actually moving just from pure risk transfer business model to more of preventing the bad things from happening rather than just paying to clients in case those things happen. So things like behavioral underwriting, which basically rewards or penalizes certain behaviors, which then drive the profitability of insurance companies, and at the end also ensure that the clients are happier because they are getting what they want and they are not facing any unpleasant situations where they have to claim for the money. So that shift is also very important, and we have seen more and more of our clients, be it carriers, reinsurers, brokers, or newly founded startups using our technologies, trying to disrupt the current status quo. I think with that short introduction, I would like to hand it back to you, Hassan, so that we can start our panel discussion. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tomek, for the kind intro. I think it's very important for people to understand the industry and what are the limitations, challenges, and that helps in finding the opportunities as well. So thank you, Tomek, for that. Now I would like to hand over the mic to Hank, who is the Managing Director of Financial Services at Qatar Financial Center. He will be hosting a panel discussion from our esteemed jury members who come from EY, EXA, Allianz, Vesuvio Lab, Steve, and Ibautech. So Hank, over to you for the next sort of 30-35 minutes, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, thank you, Hassan. Thank you, Qatar Fintech Hub, for organizing this event. We have indeed a very good panel with industry leaders, not only from the insurance companies, but also from consultants and some InsurTech companies themselves. So I'll repeat again, Christian Veldor from Vesuvio Labs. Christian is a top 100 fintech influencer. Tomek, we just heard Tomek from Ibautech. We have Jonathan Matchett from EY and the insurance lead in the Middle East. Peter Bloomer, based in Riyadh, working for Allianz as chief products. And Elias Shadid, not too far from myself, the deputy CEO of SEEP Insurance, one of the biggest insurance companies in Qatar. And Sid Iyer from AXA as chief digital officer. Can you guys hear me? Okay, that's important. Yeah, so I would like to sort of describe the landscape from my perspective. You know, we are in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution, which means digitalization throughout all kinds of sectors. Let's not mess up this revolution this time, and it should bring benefits to customers. I think that's not only for the companies doing things more efficient, but what's in it for the customer. I would like to start basically Jonathan, with you, because you are a consultant, you have a good view on many players. What are the most important trends right now in the Middle East, if you compare, let's say, to other parts of the world? And what do you think is the role of the regulator in the countries around us? How can they accelerate this whole development?
Okay, thank you, Hank. Very good to be here, and thank you for Qatar Fintech Hub for giving me the opportunity to be here. Two very good questions. Okay, the first one is, why is InsurTech important to the Middle East market now? Okay, I think that's a really important question. The Middle East markets in the past couple of years have become very competitive. The Middle East went through a long period of market growth over a couple of decades, but in the last couple of years, that has very much flatlined. And that's made the environment much more competitive. So insurance companies really need to look hard for ways to get competitive edge over the other companies in the market. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is protection of the bottom lines. So being able to sustain and improve profitability. And the third thing is that customers have really changed dramatically, especially over the past 12 months. Whereas customer adoption of digital insurance services a year ago was somewhat tentative, now it is much higher. Okay, customers' expectations are to have what they want, when they want, how they want it, and the insurance companies that adapt to that paradigm will succeed. To answer your second question, Hank, on the regulators are really important here. I think there's two parts to it. The first part is to establishing a regulatory environment that allows fintechs to work and flourish. And I think there are some specifics. There are things like data, the ability to use cloud services, the ability to use services which are not necessarily domiciled in the country, okay? Because a lot of fintechs are SaaS enabled outside the country. So there are specific pieces of regulation that are important. Distribution regulation. A lot of InsurTechs focus on alternative distribution channels, and those alternative distribution channels are not often fully covered by regulators. And then the other side of the regulatory point is the support. This is things like the FinTech Hub, giving InsurTechs the support and the facilities they need to grow in the market, understand in the market.
Okay, thank you. Do you think the regulators really understand InsurTech?
I think it's an evolving process. I see some moves, both formal and informal, by some regulators to make the regulatory environment more facilitative to InsurTechs. But I think there is some way to go.
Yeah, I think so too. So that's why I asked the question. Thank you very much. I think that's a kick-off question. I would like to move on now, basically to Peter from Allianz. You know, you're a huge insurance company in the biggest market in the Middle East. So what are the type of challenges InsurTech can help you with? You know, what are the characteristics? That's the second question of an InsurTech company that you use. Maybe you have an example.
Well, first of all, as I'm coming from a mature market, which is Germany or Switzerland, where I've worked, you will see that the products are not very different in this market, but the customers are very different. First of all, they are very young, and there is not a big understanding. So we understood that insurance is a push product, and for the time being, we really want to go from push to pull. This is something that the group has stood out there, and I think their InsurTechs can help us really a lot to understand the customer journey, really. Also an educational part on this one. Why do I need to insure my car? And then what just Tomek mentioned, you have completely different features. Do not feel that it's a car, but there may be a different gimmick to it. What we can see, and this is where InsurTechs really can help us to create a new story around it. And this is like, you know, this mileage-driven thing may be a different thing, but if you have one thing that you want to insure, or if you have, like in Germany, we tried to help the guys changing the tires once a year with an ecosystem around, then it's not about insurance, because we feel nobody really cares about insurance. And this, but people care about the service, about something different. This is where InsurTechs can help us a lot, and we really can try to do some stuff with them.
And do you have an example of an InsurTech company that you work with?
Yeah,
that have helped you with this narrative?
I mean, of course, we have with Allianz X, a quite big investor in these companies. Here currently, we are also seeing that we had InsurTechs, especially in the sector of health, that were helping us like on dental pre-authorization, where you really can see that they, first of all, help the customer to find the right dentist potentially, and then to reduce the cost on also the sum insured. And then you would see that this is quite a good story, that you would normally say it may not be an InsurTech, but more a health incubator, but somehow this is coming out to the same point because it's helping us and our customers. So these are quite concrete examples.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I would like to move on now to basically our two InsurTech companies, people that have been in the forefront of the developments. and many things are going on. So I see that somehow in Asia and Europe, and probably US as well, you know, the InsurTech space becomes a bit overcrowded. I just would like to ask first Christian and then Tomek. So is that the reason why you guys go to this part of the world, Middle East, where there's still growth opportunities? Or how would you define InsurTech? Is it indeed becoming a crowded space, or are there so many opportunities? Maybe Christian, yeah, I know you started in the UK, also active in Asia, and now entering into Qatar and the wider Middle East. Please share us your view.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think it's that crowded in that sense. I think some of the areas that were mentioned in the beginning of the talk, perhaps some of the areas of sort of product innovation and distribution, that's where a lot of InsurTech started, sort of different sort of distribution models. But if you look further down the supply chain, all of the things that we didn't really talk about, how the insurance companies are spending their money, claims processes, various kinds of reporting and risk management, fraud prevention, capital allocation, all of those areas are really not touched much yet. Commercial insurance, so a lot of these insurers, InsurTechs we're talking about, they're nearly all personal lines. So they're selling stuff to private customers. Very few active in commercial insurance because it's more complex, more difficult. So I don't think necessarily it's too crowded. There's so much work still to do. However, if you are someone in that category that we were talking about earlier, and you have launched a good product in a market like London, and it makes sense to try some stuff in London because of a lot of the sort of insurance market is here. Why not take it somewhere where there is perhaps no one else? Why should it always be, you know, UK first and then the US, when there's so much market opportunity, Middle East, Africa, and Asia? So I don't necessarily think it's about, you know, being crowded out. It's more about thinking sensibly about where you can actually go and be the winner in a particular market. And I think there are so many opportunities for that if you look east rather than west.
Okay, thanks. So it's good, the ambition of all these InsurTech companies to become a winner. Yeah, so about tech, Tomek, you know, we heard your introduction. I heard you say that you're already in 30 countries. So it seems that you guys already have some global coverage. So what is your view on this space? Overcrowded? You see also opportunities? Apparently you do. Please share your opinion.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Hank. So yeah, I agree what we have heard before. Now, there's always, and we live in interesting times, right? There's always certain reasons why it may seem overcrowded from one end and not from the other. I mean, there's one thing for sure, there's abundance of capital, right? So that in itself drives certain proliferation of many ideas. And some of these ideas actually, when you look at them, they don't make sense, but still get funded one way or the other. But, you know, that's the reality. So taking that part out of the equation, there are different markets. And yes, it's, you know, a lot of that investor-driven thinking, sort of Silicon Valley approaches. You need to go into the market, which is large enough to grow and scale up quickly so that your valuation follows, right? And that's probably why certain regions of the globe get underfunded, and also they sort of are a bit late to the game. And I would say that's one of the reasons why potentially Middle East as such is not as far ahead as some of the other territories we've heard before. The other reason is that Middle East markets, insurance markets are really heavily regulated and in a very static way, right? And I think panelists will tell us more about it later on. So when I say static, is that it's pretty much reactive rather than proactive type of regulation, and it doesn't change too often. And if it changes, you are being asked to change something in 3 weeks' time, which anyway wreaks havoc on your systems, operational processes, etc. But what we have seen being here, and we have already an established customer base in the Middle East across many countries, we have seen in markets which started to offer those sandbox type of approaches to financial services as a whole, but also including insurance, there is sudden movement. So when we look at sandboxes in some of the larger countries in the region, actually we get a lot of calls from startups coming from nowhere, being funded by local individuals asking, hey, can we actually look at your platform, because we have this clever idea of new product and how we want to create customer journey. So can we use your platform to orchestrate it? So we actually have been having a lot of interest coming from those smaller players mushrooming after the sandbox was put in place. So I think from Qatar point of view, to make it a bit more local, I think that's definitely one area where the regulators should probably look into, allowing those smaller players to actually create those new products and test them out without having to ask for a full-blown license, be it insurance broker license, also intermediary license, aggregator license, or carrier license. And so that's just my view.
I think it's very interesting also the fact that you mentioned that, you know, those local initiatives should partner up with others that are probably ahead, already have a platform. I think that would be also encouraging to bring the bigger, let's say, InsurTechs to this market and to partner with local initiatives. So I would like to move on to Sid, basically, from AXA. And Sid, ask you, what have you learned recently from some of the InsurTechs? Obviously, AXA is a big company, you know, they think they can do everything themselves. Is there anything that there was a wake-up call for you? And what did you learn from InsurTech?
Thanks, Hank. I can assure you, being a big company does not mean we'll be able to do everything ourselves. Rather, we need more support than others. I think as I focus more on the digital experience side as well as the customer facing side, what I see is one is around the challenges around flexible systems. So the InsurTechs that you have are now focused on specific areas of the solutions, while somebody else has to bind everything together. And that someone else binding together is another probably an InsurTech. So the flexibility in the systems make it a little more complicated for, and like Tomek mentioned earlier, the ecosystem building activity has to be clear. So one is being able to see the vision to build that ecosystem, and it's not necessarily going to be one InsurTech who's going to enable this entire ecosystem for you. So having that vision is something which is very important. The second piece that I feel very strongly, especially when you're working with an InsurTech who is focused from a customer perspective on the customer facing side, is to A/B test. So nothing can actually, it's never a given success. You might put KPIs, metrics, you have a strong business case. And I have seen it personally with one of the solutions that we just delivered to the market, and we A/B tested. We found that it was delivering, it was not delivering to the expectation that we actually had thought of. But because we had put the A/B test in place, we could actually see the difference between with the InsurTech and without the InsurTech, right? I think it's important when you start looking at introducing any new technology and any of these new service platforms to see, you never know what the customer wants till they actually use your product, right? And the best way to get that feedback is to give them both the options and let them decide and choose which one they can feel is better. Apart from this, the third biggest element that I've learned of is don't get sucked into the hype. So one of the challenges, and it's surely not with the folks that we have here right now, but everybody goes with the buzzwords that they will have AI capabilities, they have blockchain and all of that. I think it's important to really understand what's your use case and not get driven by the buzzwords alone. And that's going to help you define stronger KPIs and deliver something more useful to the customers.
Okay, thank you. So is AXA also investing in InsurTech companies? So once you see a successful partner, would you like to buy them to secure that knowledge for you, or you prefer to partner?
Yeah, I think we've gone. I think we look at both routes, depending on how strong that particular player works out to be. We've not yet seen, at least at the local level, we've not seen anybody strong enough to say that we want to invest in them. But again, the options are always open, right? When you see somebody strong enough and they give you fair enough competitive advantage, you don't mind looking at it from a long-term standpoint. As of now, we've not done any of these things. Many of AXA's InsurTech innovations also come from our own innovation labs, which is AXA Next. And we utilize them. But of course, for the local market, we look at a lot of things that are very specific and very localized for us from a flavor and also from a security standpoint. I think that's something which becomes very important for us.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to go now, come down to Qatar and to my good friend Elias Shadid, the Deputy CEO of SEEP. Elias, we have a small market in Qatar. So listening to all this, what do you think are the specific challenges for InsurTech to work in general with the Qatari insurance companies?
Well, Hank, challenges are not only related or not directly related to InsurTech or to the InsurTech partner, but it's also related to the InsurTech market and Fintech as a whole. InsurTech as a business model, and as we conclude from our previous colleagues, is that it's still emerging. And it's emerging along the same lines as the Fintech concept. So, and we have a lot to learn from banks in this regard. But I think that the first challenge, in my opinion, is understanding value creation. So whether it is in Qatar market or any other market, I mean, what is the value created or that would be created for all partners of this InsurTech provider and all the participants with this InsurTech platform that would lead to sustainable business growth, sustainable, profitable business growth. This, of course, is required to cross the cultural barrier. First of all, it has to cross the cultural barrier, and it was discussed earlier by one of our colleagues. So that is moving from the human, physical, and verbal interaction platform to an AI machine interaction platform, and how to combine between both of them, and how to transform from one to two, that is from the human physical interaction to the machine platform. And this is a massive challenge, and we continue to see it. People like to interact personally in insurance. They would like to be convinced, depending of course on the line of business, they would like to talk to somebody and inquire and have this personal confidence of taking a decision. Yeah. Other challenge, and I'm only summarizing, so other challenges related to due diligence of this InsurTech partner. So those include, for example, who are the people behind this technology provider, and who are the technology platform partners? How is cybersecurity tackled? And it's the most important probably. A platform internal governance, the ability to put in place policies, procedures, and controls required to survive and create viral growth across borders. And when I say across borders, because a company, InsurTech provider in Qatar is not going to be limited to provide services to the Qatari market. It would definitely cross borders. So you need to have the ability to create value beyond those borders, control them, and comply with the external regulations and laws of these territories. Jonathan previously referred to this earlier. So if this partner is not geared to support viral growth, then you're doomed to failure and need to start all over again. And that is very costly. It costs you market share, it would cost you cash. So, and it would cost you your people as well. So, and here I would like to shed the light again on meeting regulatory requirements. COVID-19 was a fantastic lesson and a live example for all of us in the industry and in other industries as well, in relation to digital technology, how we use it, how we capitalize on it. And in SEEP, we have successfully used digital procedures, and particularly in relation to compliance And that's another challenge to answer your question in relation to challenges. So compliance, particularly in relation to KYCs, customers and the market were used to manual procedures, and you need to shift suddenly to remote verification, remote communication, remote acceptance, and this was a main challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge along with other regulatory requirements that will come along in the future in relation to financial lines.
The topic of compliance and the regulatory elements, I'll park that question and I'll come back to Jonathan around it, because I think it's important. Then one specific question for Qatar. We know that the government has announced mandatory health insurance because the percentage of people in Qatar, for instance, that have a health insurance is relatively low. So this is coming up, and it also means that visitors, let's say to the World Championship, will also need to have a mandatory health certificate. How is Qatar going to organize this? So what is your view on this?
Well, you have here two questions. One in relation to the mandatory health insurance, the other one in relation to inbound travel. But for sure, first of all, I mean, as also clarified earlier by Tomek, is that InsurTech is not necessarily an insurance company. InsurTech is a platform that offers insurance solutions. So an example is one of our sister companies within Shadid Capital Holding. It's called Idarat. Idarat provides an end-to-end HR solution. HR solution, basically, it provides solutions to a 360 degrees HR management solution, which includes insurance, includes managing insurance, includes procurement of insurance, includes being able to manage data for future insurance needs. And this will, of course, make the life of your employees easier. It would reduce costs. It would put you on a competitive edge, in particular for SMEs. And in relation to the mandatory health insurance and the expected law that would come up in Qatar, SMEs are vital. And how to manage and control and make sure that these SMEs comply with the requirements of the health insurance law is vital. So a solution like Idarat is a fantastic solution. I'm not specifically promoting Idarat here. It's a fantastic company, but any similar solution basically would be fantastic for such SMEs, because it saves them costs. It would assist them to comply with the regulation, and be basically up to date with technology. And here insurance is coming through an HR platform to promote insurance products. And that's where InsurTech comes in from outside the direct insurance business.
A few comments on the mandatory health service, because the mandatory health thing is coming soon. Just some quick thoughts on that.
Right. I mean, from technology or from which perspective?
Well, just how to organize this, because I understand it creates an opportunity for the audience also, insurance tech companies to help. But we're talking about millions
within the cycle here, other than meeting regulatory requirements, you have the insured who wants to procure insurance. So the second is that you need the insurance company provider, and you have the health service provider, basically the hospitals and clinics. So we need the best solution would be the solution that connects governmental institutes that would have to monitor the execution of the law, along with insurance companies, the insured, and the healthcare provider. This is the ultimate solution and the best solution. But this doesn't mean that such a law cannot be applied and cannot be executed if all these elements were not already and integrated together. And such integration is not a small project; it's a massive project.
The best project. I'll stop you there, because basically, I think the challenges that we have in Qatar here, and yes, there are solutions, is probably similar to other markets in the Middle East. So, Jonathan Beck, because I think I have 7 minutes or so, so I will ask you all the questions, so keep it very short. So, Jonathan, all these regulatory requirements, you know, some countries are more ahead than others. So, how will this? How will the countries handle that, and how far can insurance companies work with InsurTech, or you know, does the regulator allow this? Is there indeed a need for sandboxes? Just some thoughts around this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there are several areas of there are several areas of the industry where the industry is going in different directions to the regulators. Okay. I'll give you an example. KYC. Okay. The regulators are pushing for tighter KYC all the time, but KYC, tough KYC rules make it difficult to do online digital sales. Okay, so these are two areas which are divergent. In the retail side, I think the regulators in the industry have just about reconciled themselves to a state where a customer can go online, buy an insurance policy, and the KYC is to the satisfaction of the regulator. But what about SMEs? The KYC requirements for SMEs are extremely onerous, okay? And to do that on an online transaction, whereas SMEs would love to buy insurance online. So, but you have to create a regulatory dynamic whereby the KYC requirements can be met at the same time giving the customer the experience that they want. Now, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. There are some really interesting RegTech companies coming up now, especially in the UAE, which use blockchain technology to be able to address just that problem. Okay. So actually, InsurTech can be part of the solution to the problem.
That deserves another complete topic. I think RegTech is very interesting, but I think this is a key element. So, Peter, over to you in terms of the biggest market here, Saudi. Is Saudi opening up for these developments that Jonathan just described? You know, simple KYC, digital signature. What's happening in Saudi?
Yeah, let me put it this way. From a customer perspective, I'm very positive that it will be accepted and it will be out there. And we have seen a couple of fintechs actually that are just doing that. And you could see it's this young market is actually over jumping hurdles that others have, because I mean, we will not see too much of a tight Asian market here. We will just people going directly to the biggest aggregator, Tamini, which is once again then putting up the question. How to do the KYC, for example, right? There's a lot of dynamic, but I think like from an aggregator perspective, I would, from a regulator perspective, I think we still have to discuss more what we want to achieve here, right? What's the target? And for me, the target is, of course, like especially also as mentioned in the SME market, we want to increase the health coverages of the population. So what's the overarching target of a regulator? Is to have more coverage, better coverages at a better price. And this is, I think, where they still have to think how to do it potentially, right? It's not, insurance has not to be seen as a burden, but as part that is of Vision 2030, saving the society some money. And they're definitely in this country, you need technology. And it's also like, if you like, for example, I want to give you an example. If you have to check anti-money laundering, if you want to sell a third-party liability, before issuance of a policy, that's making the process much more complex, because the likelihood is pretty low that these people really go into anti-money laundering. If you do it after issuance, it's completely fine. But some of the processes to better understand from a regulator side, to make it more customer oriented, I think there is room for improvement. That's my feeling.
Thank you very much. Same question for you, Sid, but very short. You know, what do you see happening in the Middle East market when it comes to regulators opening up and the opportunity for InsurTech to be successful?
So I can tell you from my personal experience, I'm actually part of the committee of the Bahrain Insurance Authority, so which is headed by Dr. Abdullah Sultan. We are constantly looking for new InsurTechs. We are constantly looking to, because the need in the market is already there. There are a lot of gaps, especially if you focus just on the motor insurance, you could see a lot of gaps in terms of market data sharing, in terms of claims history, all of those things. So we are actively, the digital committee is set up to scout for these InsurTechs, plus scout for opportunities and use cases. So Bahrain is true, and in case of UAE as well, last year there was an online regulation that was signed off. So which means that all insurance companies who are selling products online, retail, SME or corporate, of course SME and corporate there's not much sales happening online. There's no sales that happen online. It's only lead generation. Specifically retail have to comply by those regulations. So yes, they are complex regulations, like Jonathan mentioned. They are not easy, but then there are ways and means which the authorities are also trying to help the insurance companies, introducing them to InsurTechs in the market, in the region, to help ease out the KYC problem. In case of the retail KYC problem, there's an InsurTech in the UAE who's focusing on this particular problem called Yukudo. They are actually one of the big names in terms of identity management solutions plus KYC. So there are I mean, the insurance, I think the regulators in at least these two countries I've seen, I'm not sure about Qatar and Oman, but these two countries are, of course, we are progressing towards making it more democratic from an insurance technology perspective.
Okay, thank you very much. You guys are big, so I think that's probably an invitation to Biotech and Vesuvio Labs to team up with you. Christian, a short question to you. So you have been developing also a relationship in the markets here, Qatar, UAE. So what is the experience in general, but keep it short, with companies that have not worked with InsurTech before? You know, AXA, Allianz, they know how to deal with you guys, but the companies that deal with you for the first time.
Yeah, there was a question a bit earlier about who Allianz are working with, and one of them is us, actually. So they bought one of the companies we provide technology for last year. So we are now a supplier to Allianz. But the experience in the Middle East, we started connecting 2 years ago. And I gotta say, I don't think that many people actually knew what InsurTech was. So even the fact that we're having this meeting is a sign that things are evolving quite quick. Experience has been good, I think. It's been open. People have been welcoming and interested in what we can offer. Now, it's going to take a while, of course, for all of this to sort of us to really find each other. But there are massive opportunities for collaboration, particularly. I think this is the thing, this is the key to making in these markets, crossing borders, to not necessarily have to do everything direct, find the right partners, help them, add to their capabilities. And I think there's a big opportunity there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's definitely a relationship market. I hope to see you soon again in Qatar. Over to you, Tomek. Obviously, you have been working in this market. So what is your experience with the insurance companies that, you know, for them, InsurTech is new? So how is your approach? Keep it short, please, because I'm already over time.
So I think it's actually been very good. So we've been working with incumbents as well as with startups in the industry. And the incumbents are trying to move fast and really get digital and reinvent themselves, as I mentioned before. Startups are very actually agile and very knowledgeable and talented people, where I think there could be a bit more benefit for both, actually, is to really try to bring that offering together from day one. So we have seen cases where, you know, there are certain initiatives within the carriers trying to launch something in an isolation of what's already available in the market. And I think as Christian, Peter, and Sid, and also Elias said, the collaboration is key here, because it's not, honestly, from technological point of view, it's just a question of time and money. You throw at it, but you can copy it easily. So there's no point really trying to be everything to everyone. You have to focus what is really one thing that you do best, even as an insurance company, right? You still have to cover your value chain end to end more or less, but it doesn't mean you have to manufacture each part of that value chain. You can actually bring in through those APIs I mentioned before, someone else's solution who does it better than what you have and leverage that way. So going well, but I will push it further and say, please collaborate more with
I think that's
big ones with the small ones.
Yeah, because there's also a threat, there's a threat to the sector. It's under-insured, so there could be newcomers and take away market share. So last question to you, Elias, with this very short answer. Listening to all of this, so where does SEEP need InsurTech? It's a very blunt question, but where do you see the opportunities in your company?
Actually, we are in the InsurTech market. We're there. This is where the opportunity lies, and that's where the future is. It's the simple equation: effectiveness versus ineffectiveness. So effectiveness would eat ineffectiveness, and if you want to be effective, you need to be in the InsurTech business, whether fully, partially, directly or indirectly. You need to be there, and that's where the future is, and that's where we are going, and that's where we are now.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I could have spent another half hour with you guys with so many examples and opportunities. Yes, I think the Middle East is a growth market for insurance in general, and for innovative insurance solutions and InsurTech. I go back to Hassan because he's sending me apps already that I have to stop now. So Hassan, over to you, and thank you very much, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you, Hank, and thank you to all the panelists. I believe there are quite a few takeaways, very interesting points, and as you mentioned, Hank, we could have listened to you guys for more than half an hour. It was very interesting. So once again, thank you everyone for that. Now I would like to introduce Richard, who comes from FinChatBot. FinChatBot is a fintech who is participating in our second wave. They specialize in conversational AI solutions, specifically for financial services sector. This helps the clients in increasing customer engagement, retention, and lifetime value, not only for the customers, for the policyholders as well. Richard has kindly prepared a demo just to bring a little bit flavor to the conversations we are having around insurance. Richard will be sharing his screen with some slides and then a demo as well. Over to you, Richard.
Super. Thanks, Hassan, and thanks for inviting us on to the webinar today. It's really exciting to be part of the InsurTech program and the Accelerator program in Qatar. I think just before I fly into the presentation, some of the key points that I've picked up from the panelists, which I think is really poignant to what InsurTech is looking to try and achieve and aim from developing a really customer-centric approach, is based on buying on personalization, as Tom had mentioned before. It is really down to the customer's focus on what's best for them and suited to them and their requirements. Very much about convenience and the ease of purchase, the frictionless journey that allows consumers to be able to get access to product, I think is absolutely critical. I think that's what most InsurTechs are really trying to alleviate in giving ease of access and a really good customer journey. So from FinChatBot's point of view, we sort of act as the conduit to providing a consumer-orientated journey that's frictionless, that's easy, and takes a lot of time out of the normal process to buy a product. I think from an insurer's perspective also, was mentioned before about value creation, sustainability, and profitability. We're constantly looking at ways that we can achieve optimal inception of new policyholders, new avenues. We talked about millennials before, and really the way that the younger sort of insured policyholders are looking to now buy product and services. And I think the demonstration today shows how we cut down what is a very long journey to buying car insurance, and then post the purchase of the insurance policies, how that they can make a claim within the same digital space. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and then we can get straight into the presentation. Great. Can everyone see my screen okay? Okay. Okay, so what we've produced for Car Validate was a seamless journey for consumers to buy car insurance by using a conversational AI interface that will help rapidly validate the components of the car insurance quote. So the bot, as it were, monitors and pulls the information on the registration number, the odometer, the vehicle condition, VIN number, and the rest of the components in order to complete the quotation process. The problem in the industry had really arisen from what we think is poor customer services, so a manual and confusing onboarding process with a lot of form filling. And what we've done is we've tried to move that away from a lot of form filling online and using the chat interface and using the capabilities of the camera to be able to gather the information to complete the initial part of the journey to produce the quote, and then post-sale to be able to enact on claims. It also assists in looking at the incomplete records that are produced when onboarding the asset of the car and checking the condition. So it really does eliminate fraud, and through the pre-inspection of the vehicle, how we check that the vehicle is in good standing before the policy is incepted. Okay, so the solution embedded in the chat interface, we're using one entry point that can be accessed via all social media channels, through the portal or the web application for the insurer or online. So as many different entry points as possible. What it does is it gives a self-assessment solution that extracts all of the information about the vehicle. That then is hosted on a platform which connects post-sale if there is a claim, that we validate the claim, and then we connect that with repairers and provides a quote in real time. So what it does is it shortens down this journey from the consumer's perspective to take out a lot of the friction and the benefits of this digital experience. So back to the point, pre-inspection of the vehicle is critical from the insurer's perspective, making sure that there is no damage to the vehicle before the policy is incepted. We do that in less than 5 minutes. In that process, we reduce the claims cost by up to 30%, which enables us to provide competitive quotes and operational automation to make that a seamless journey from the customer and the claims division within the insurer. And then thirdly, it really does provide a self-service solution. So there's not a requirement to go and have a pre-inspection at a dealership or anywhere else where it needs to be validated. It can all be done through the handset, which is really great considering some of the challenges around COVID-19. It also reduces fraud, and within submissions that a vehicle has not been pre-validated before it's insured, picks up any challenges or anything wrong with the vehicle prior to that policy being incepted. And I think that the most critical point here from when the policy's been set up is that the first notice of loss, we're looking at reducing that time taken to process that by up to 90%, which is totally critical in terms of improving the overall efficiency of customer services and the journey for the policyholder. So simply scan, confirm, and submit. That's in essence what we're saying. Upload personal driving information. You'll see that in the brief demo that's happening shortly. What it does is it reduces the amount of time to form fill, and it completes the quote there and then. It validates the condition of the vehicle, and it runs a computer vision algorithm which enables us to pull the detail on the car, host that information on the insurer's server, and then in determination of detecting any damage, eradicates any level of fraud, and then allows us to incept the policy. And then the final part on this is it helps us the purchase of the car insurance in less than 5 minutes, what normally can take 20 to 30 minutes online. By just using the interface and using this InsurTech technology, really gives a really superb, seamless customer engagement and onboarding experience. So here is the basic demo. I just walk you through this. So the chat interface is engaging with the insurer. We want a car insurance quote today. This can be accessed through WhatsApp, Facebook marketing, Facebook messaging, and other mediums. They're asking now to produce the quote, and we're now saying, please upload a picture of your driving license. So this reduces the amount of form filling and allows us to, using OCR technology, pull the detail from the driving license to drop into the quotation process. So it confirms the name, the license number, and any specifics on that driving license regarding any points or anything else. So it's uploading all of that customer credentials. And then finally, it's uploading an image of the vehicle. So the registration number will then link to the bureau where the VIN number and all the details are held, and pull back the make and model of the vehicle. So it's a VW Golf, a Polo, year 2020, silver. We've now pulled all of the information from the car. We've loaded that up into the ratings engine. We've been able to provide a quote in less than a few minutes. Okay, the second journey is with MyWay, which is one of the largest car insurers in Africa. What really took them 40 minutes to process a car insurance quote and binding of the policy is now done in 5 minutes. Again, what we do here is that we have direct API connection. So in this case with InsureMo, with InsurTech, we would use the API from InsureMo to pull the ratings back from the insurer to then ask the range of underwriting questions, which is what it's doing now, and then allow for the detail for the underwriting to then present the quote back to the customer. So it's simplistic, it's really easy to use. The chat interface helps us pull all that detail back from the black box. It validates all of the underwriting details and criteria, and then most importantly, provides a quote to the customer for them to option to then buy, which would link to a payment gateway to process the final payment. So as you can see, really from these really seamless, frictionless journeys, the ability for consumers now to buy insurance in a different manner compared to what they would do buying via a call center or buying online, where they're filling in a lot of information, it becomes a lot more simpler in the whole process. And I think ultimately that's what InsurTechs are looking to do, to provide this ease of purchase, a much more convenient way to buy using the access points of all the different social media channels to engage, and using a simple chat interface to be able to scan and process the application. I think from our side, we're super excited in the relationship with InsurTech, the ability for us to be able to plug into their APIs and allow us to quickly deploy these type of digital services for insurers globally is a real win for not only the insurer, but obviously the consumer in that process. That's the end of the demonstration, and be open for any questions that you might have, or back over to the panel.
No, thank you so much, Richard. It was very interesting, and for the audiences, we will share this material, and we will also upload it so you can have a look at it, and if you have any questions, you can direct it to Richard. We have received quite a few questions, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. So as a commitment from our side, we will draft responses to those questions and we will share it with our audiences. In the end, I would just like to thank everyone, the panelists and the audiences as well who have participated today. The webinar will go live on YouTube as well, and we will share it with our partners. So please, if you have any questions, if you want any follow-up, do get in touch. You can see some links on the screen right now. Please follow us on social media. We're also running an angel investment masterclass tomorrow, which is a public event. So please register for that and do participate in that as well. You can see the QR code for that on the screen right now. With that, we will close the session now. Thank you to everyone. Best of luck. And we look forward to get in touch with you for another session soon. Thank you so much.